Good evening, everyone. And here we are. I think it's about day 7 or 8. I probably need to look it up and keep tabs on it all. But welcome to my daily live video as part of my challenge. And I am here tonight to talk about a thing that troubles a lot of us at various times of our life, in varying ways in terms of intensity and power. And this is about the voices in your head. Now, there are many voices in our head, and we've been listening to them since we were small children, and they take various forms. And let me stress right now that I'm not at all perturbed with the kind voices in your head, the ones that support you, encourage you, nourish you, sustain you. Wherever they're from, they're working for you, and they're very happy to keep doing so, and we would not interfere with that process at all. But there are other kinds of voices in our head, and these are the dark ones, and we all know them, and some of them are incredibly dark. Now, some of the voices come from various parts of your psyche, and some of them come from other places. And the interesting thing about the particularly dark voices is that depending on where you're at, what's happening in your life, what you're wrestling with or struggling with, what the universe has helped you co-create to help your soul grow and evolve, the darker ones will react to pain. So the first thing I guess is useful to point out is that there are only two emotions in life, love or fear. Now, fear comes in many disguises, of course: hate, anger, vengeance, jealousy, envy, inadequacy. But it's all based in fear of lack, fear of basically the great terror of all humans. At the bottom of all of it is the fear that who we are is not enough for this world, not enough for ourselves, not enough for our loved ones, which eventually drives us to be spending a great deal of time doing good in order to be seen good or seen to be good by others. In fact, humans spend about 80% of their time looking good and being right. And that's to fulfill this program that you were given as a child, the story about who you are and what you're allowed to be and what you're not allowed to be. And because of the world we live in, that is filled with pain and blame, victim consciousness, and all those sense of inadequacies, and because we live in a world where we're constantly fed drama and fear, turn on a television, turn on a news broadcast, reality TV, news, whatever it is, it's all, and, you know, the myriad of violent shows on television. You know, they say the average child in America, by the time they're 8 years of age, has seen something like 20,000 murders. Okay, so we live on television. So we have seen, you know, we dwell in this dark place. We are fed this pap because it encourages this fear-based response. And so of the two emotions, we tend to dwell in fear. Most people tend to worry about the things that aren't working for them. We tend to dwell in that. And because these two emotions have a magnetic resonance, a different magnetic resonance, and the work of Buckminster Fuller and Dan Winter and people like that can actually demonstrate now the magnetic pull of the heart math. So because most people are worried about what's not working for them, what they don't have, what they're missing out on, what's not working, that is a fear-based reality you are perceiving the world through. And that magnetic pull will pull the things that you're actually afraid of, more lack, more pain, more trauma, until you learn to work it out and let it go. It's how the universe teaches you to leave it behind. How long do you want to dwell in it before the boredom with the pain outweighs the pain itself and you do something about it? So we are encouraged to dwell in inadequacy and fear, continually drawing those things into us. And we've got the monkey chatter going on all the time to reinforce that. So fear attracts magnetically the very things we're afraid of until we learn not to do it. As the Chinese say, where attention goes, qi flows. On the other hand, love which has a different magnetic resonance, and the expression of love is gratitude. If you can shut that one down and focus your attention on gratitude and love, even starting out with the very small things in life, a sunset, a flower, a child, a dog, whatever, then the universe and if you genuinely feel gratitude in the moment of letting your mind go there, then the universe will eventually, in its infinite wisdom, start giving you more of what you're grateful for, because that's how the magnetic pull works. So fear attracts fear, love and gratitude attracts more of that which you are grateful for. And you and what's going on in your mind determine that reality. So the voices, if you're in a fear-based resonance, the more vulnerable you are, the more depressed you are, the more anxious you are, the more those dark voices rise up. It's a bit like a dysfunctional family, that when you're feeling vulnerable and under the pump, that's when they put the boot in to remind you how useless you are, and that your only hope is being connected to the family while they continue to, take you down. Hi, everyone. Good morning to all. Thank you for your comments. So here we have the two emotions, and the dark voices in our head naturally support fear-based resonance, fear-based ideology, fear-based emotions. Okay, because when you have these thoughts of darkness and fear and hopelessness, and the voices in your head are constantly reaffirming how hopeless you are, useless you are, not good enough you are, then that produces in you anxiety, sadness, angst, helplessness, hopelessness, trapped reality. And those emotions are what reinforce and feed the dark voices. And we'll talk a bit more about what to do about it in a moment. But basically, who are these voices? What are these voices? What are they doing in there, bouncing all over your head, telling you all this negative crap all day, every day? Now, one we mentioned the other night or last night or whenever, we talked about the id, the ego, and the superego. The id that wants all, desires all, wants to have all. The superego, which is your conscience, really, the voice of your parents, your teachers, your society, that tells you how to behave, how to be a good child, how to be a good adult in order to get your needs met. And basically by subjugating your own needs to meet the needs of the other. And remember, the other name for the superego is the holdfast tyrant. And it can be an absolute thug, a brute of a thing. But it is also part of your psyche. So you need to retrain that, okay? The more power you give it, the more you listen to it, the more absurd it becomes. So that's one powerful aspect of the dark voice in your head. Other parts of the dark voices are the wounded parts of yourself, the parts that were traumatized, that were shattered, split, divided, put away into the shadow realms when you were a small child being punished for being human. And again, we punish children much more severely for being normal than we do ourselves. You know, we're allowed to be grumpy, we're allowed to have bad moods, we're allowed to have a temper tantrum, but we do not tolerate it in children, which is kind of bizarre, really, considering that we're meant to love these creatures, these beautiful, precious souls in our life, more than we love ourselves. But the wounded parts, when they speak, often do it somatically or through the body. So when a wounded part of yourself is in a situation where they're feeling a little anxious about the person they're with, or a little anxious about going to a party, being seen by others, then it will produce thoughts about, oh, this is not going to be good, this is not going to be okay, but it'll often stimulate a somatic response, a nausea, a fight-flight response. So we tend to feel those voices before we hear them, because they become so automatic in the automatic negative thought component that we really don't hear what they say. They're so automatic, but we tend to notice the emotional response to them. So that's the second part of the dark voices. And the third part are things that are not us. And remember, we are multidimensional creatures living in a multidimensional universe. And the veil is getting much thinner now as we move towards some transitional event that most people can feel, even if they don't understand. Then the veil between this 3D reality and all other dimensions and realities is becoming much thinner. Now, when a child is traumatized by something as a small child, it's completely overwhelming, it's completely paralyzing, and they are tormented. And small children, a moment is going on forever. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mark. An emotion that a child experiences, it's not like they have an understanding that an adult have that this will pass. When they're in it, it's going to go on forever. Now, the pain of a trauma for a child, which is much more painful than for an adult because we've got better coping skills, generally speaking. At least we understand things move and change and flow. For a child, it's an eternal thing. If I'm in it, it's going to last forever and I'm screwed, basically. And that creates a bit of a schism in the auric or energetic field around your body. And depending on the nature of the pain of the trauma, be it terror, be it rage, be it overwhelming sadness, then energies that actually match what the child is feeling can slide right in through that schism in the aura, and they attach themselves to the psyche. They attach themselves energetically to the human walking around. And then they nestle in and they find a place to hide, and then they start whispering in the ear about it's your fault, you're a bad person, nobody loves you. And if you talk to anyone who's had periods of anxiety, depression, overwhelm, all of the things that go with that, they will tell you that those voices are very real. And this is where a lot of suicidal ideation comes from. The voice in the head saying, you are worthless, you are hopeless, you are useless, do the world a favour and leave now. And they will plant seeds in the head as to how to go about and what have you. And this produces such an overwhelming sense of isolation, aloneness, sadness, fear, defeat, longing to escape these very feelings. Now, those emotions that are generated in the person responding to the voice, listening to the voice, and in many cases deep down believing the voice that they are hopeless, that emotional pain is what the author of that voice feeds on. It generates these ghastly emotions, these feelings of hopelessness and despair, anxiety and grief and inadequacy, because that's what grows it fat. And I have worked with hundreds of these things over many, many years, probably more than that. But I have met them and spoken to them, and that is inevitably and powerfully the purpose of whispering this foulness to the human host, because if they can get the human host to be miserable all the time, they feed on that misery. It's what they're there for, okay? Now, where they come from and what they're doing is a story for another day, and I'm not going to bore you with the details tonight, but just know that there are things that are not you that take up residence in you, quite often in childhood, and then they sit in there and whisper and behave badly, and they keep doing this until it is so normal for the child they forget. You know, kids put things away, and so they listen to this voice all their life and they believe it's a part of them. They believe that this is who they are, that they themselves are telling them this, and it's just simply not true. So we've got the superego, the holdfast tyrant that says in order to be okay in the world, you must do as your teachers, your parents and every other lunatic on the planet has told you to do, which is to sacrifice your needs to meet the needs of the other, and even then you're not getting it right. The holdfast tyrant is never quite, you can never fulfill its desires. Depressing. Then there's the wounded child parts that feel inadequate and shamed for the blame that they were given for upsetting their mother or upsetting their father or whatever. But again, they tend to be more somatic and felt. But then there are these other things that slide in somewhere during a traumatic experience, remembering it doesn't take much to traumatize a child, take up residence and deliberately encourage by these dark words and dark sentences that you are inadequate, you feel isolated, alone, in pain, hopeless, helpless, and that energy of that pain is what they feed on. So what do we do about them? Okay. Now, the first thing that you really must understand about this is that while you're listening to the fear-based reality, it's constantly reaffirming it. There's a negative loop tape that's running through your head and through your psyche. And when it's deeply embedded enough over a long period of time, years, of course, if it attached itself in childhood, or the holdfast tyrant became very powerful, depending on the kind of authority you had in your life as a child, then that neural pathway starts embedding itself through the hypothalamus. So every time you have the thought, it triggers the hypothalamus, it releases stress hormones, and it just perpetuates the cycle. And the mind then, because you're feeling lousy, starts to go through your memory banks to remind you of reasons why you should be feeling like this. And this again is where some obsessive dark thinking can come from, and memories that you can't get rid of and feel shame every time they're there. The subconscious is saying, well, they're spending a lot of time in this place. Let's create shortcuts. They seem to like it. The subconscious doesn't understand the dynamics of it necessarily. It just knows you're going there a lot, so it creates shortcuts for you to get there and stimulates the hypothalamus to generate the feeling that clearly you seem to want. So it's trying to help you. It doesn't understand that it's creating more pain. So the first thing you have to do is you have to delete this stuff. You have to stop listening to this. And you then at the same time have to, or it's useful to, lay down a different neural pathway, one that's much more based in truth, okay? One that's actually real about the divine and blessed and powerful, exquisite soul that you are here on this planet doing what you've come to do. So we have fear, drawing fear-based reality, and we have to stop that and start focusing on love and gratitude so that we may draw more of that. We need to turn our mind around 180 degrees, no longer listening to the fear, but laying down a new neural pathway of love and gratitude, okay? Now, this is a form of behaviour modification, and all behaviour modification takes about 8 weeks. I haven't yet found anyone that can explain why it takes 8 weeks, but it does. Everyone seems to recognise that, yes, 8 weeks is the optimum time. If you want to change a habit, you need to cease the habit for 8 weeks or lay down a new habitual pathway for 8 weeks, and then the psyche will take it on and accept it, okay? So the first thing you have to do is every time you hear that dark voice, stop. Notice it. Delete it. Never respond to these things. Never answer it. Never reason with it. Never have a conversation with it. It just feeds its delusions of grandeur, be it from the superego, the wounded child, which is something else that we need to deal with separately, or one of these festering parasites that has come to dwell, to grow itself off your pain, okay? So for 8 weeks, you've got to be very vigilant, hyper-vigilant with the dark voices in your head, okay? So every time you hear them, and sometimes you'll be dwelling in it for hours before you realise what's going on, but the minute you recognise what's going on, stop, delete. Delete. No discussion, no argument, just delete. And you do need to be hyper-vigilant with this. And sometimes you'll say delete 1,000 times a day, particularly in the first few weeks as it's trying to put you back in the box that it's used to having you in, okay? So when you start challenging this, it'll actually up the ante to get you back in the box. So remain vigilant and constantly delete. Now, at the same time you start doing that, and you can start that tonight, at the same time, it's really important that you start laying down a new neural pathway. And one of the simplest ways of doing this is with positive affirmations. Now, positive affirmations have a limited value, and most people don't work with them correctly anyway. But it's like putting a Band-Aid over a femoral artery bleed. Next time a life crisis comes along, the of the blood, the crisis of the blood will simply just blast that Band-Aid out the way, and you're going back into the negative thinking. So that's why you have to do this over 8 weeks consistently, hypervigilantly. So you get a list of affirmations, and there are some beautiful ones out there, okay? I have a list that I give my clients all the time, and maybe even at the end of this, in the comments section, I'll see if I can paste the list of affirmations that I give my clients into the comments section. So feel free to use it, okay? Print it off and stick it up on a mirror in your home, okay? A mirror where you look at yourself every day. And most people who are having a lot of dark thoughts tend not to look at themselves, because to look at themselves, they feel ugly, they feel bad, they feel not good enough. It's one of the challenges doing these videos, as I'm sitting here looking at myself in the camera thinking I look like the wreck of the Hesperus, but that's how the mind works. I know that I'm doing okay deep down. So you need to look at yourself in the mirror, and you have this list of affirmations up on the mirror, okay? And as you're looking into your eyes, you're saying these affirmations with feeling. I am worthy of being here. I am worthy of being loved. Whatever my mind conceives and believes it can achieve. I create my reality absolutely, and I can change it in whatever manner I choose. Things like that, where you're actually, these are truthful statements. You are love. You are here for a reason. You deserve to be here. Life and the universe loves you unconditionally. And the God inside you loves you unconditionally as well. And you are now in the process of peeling back all that bullshit that says other than that to get back to that truth. So your whole system will actually naturally resonate with the positive affirmations that you're going to start saying over 8 weeks. And you need to do this looking at yourself, feeling the truth of it 3 times a day. When you first get up in the morning, do it. When you get home from work, do it. Or if you're at home, do it at lunchtime, and then do it again before you go to bed. And you say them with feeling. Now, the expression of love, and so this starts to lay down 3 times a day. While you're deleting the negative, you're laying down positive, truthful statements about yourself, feeling them while you're looking at yourself in the mirror. So you're deleting one neural pathway, you're not responding to it, and you've got to delete it often, just like a computer program that refuses to go away, or getting someone off a text list that's asked to be removed, and no matter how you do it, the bloody system will find them and add them again. So you've got to keep doing it for a while. 8 weeks, in fact. But at the same time, you are laying down a new neural pathway of love, acceptance, beauty, and joy. I'm glad you've still got a Marita. I bring mine out occasionally every now and then, even to this day. So you're laying down one, you're deleting the other. Now, the other thing you need to be doing is expressing gratitude on a daily basis, okay? Now, again, I'll figure out a way to paste the gratitude prayer that I give all of my clients with a specific instruction. You print it off, you laminate it or put it in a plastic sleeve, and you put it outside the mirror, outside your shower screen. And you start saying it every day under the shower. And the reason you do that, we're talking about electromagnetic forces, forces of fear that draw fear-based reality to you, forces of gratitude and love that draw the things you're grateful to you. Now, the reason you start doing this under the shower, and again, when you start saying this, thank you for the love that I am. Thank you for the physical health that I am. Thank you for the abundance that I am. Thank you for the millions of wondrous possibilities and probabilities that exist in my life. Thank you for the love and the joy. When you say them with feeling. Feel gratitude, because it's the emotion that is the engine room of your desire. It is the emotion that does the work. The emotion of fear will attract fear-based reality. The emotion of gratitude will draw more of what you're grateful for. So even if you don't think you've got any of it, and that woman's a crazy woman, I'm not love, I'm not any of it, say it with feeling for those few minutes you're in your shower, okay? And you can add into that gratitude prayer anything that you want, anything that you desire. Thank you for my new career. Thank you for my new job. Thank you for my partner that's here now. Always state these things as though they've actually arrived already, because that's how it works too. And the reason you do it underwater is because every drop of water has its own electromagnetic field. So if you're feeling gratitude and expressing gratitude for the joy and love and wonderment that you are and all the good things that are coming your way, then it's powerfully enhanced by doing it in a shower of electromagnetic pulse, okay? It adds to it. It pushes it out further. And once you've learnt this gratitude prayer, it's really good to say it wherever you're going. If you're driving in the car, what better things you've got to do? Say the gratitude prayer. When I take the kids to school every morning that I'm doing it, or I'm doing it less at the moment, We say the gratitude prayer, all 4 of us, every morning on the way to school. It's a great way to set them up for the day in a good space. And so, but doing it in the shower enhances its power, okay? So for 8 weeks, delete everything that is negative, foul, and puts you down. Refuse to listen to it ever again. Be hypervigilant with this. And while you'll catch yourself listening to it initially, over time, you'll begin to grab it very early and not delete. And then immediately you've deleted it, stop and feel gratitude for something. A child, a sunset, something, anything small in your life. Feel gratitude for it. How blessed am I? So you are doing what the great Buddha requires of you. When he described the conscious mind as a wild elephant being ridden by a mad monkey, you are domesticating the elephant. The mad monkey, by the way, is in part the superego, the conscience, the holdfast tyrant, in part the wounded child, and in part the parasites that have attached themselves to you during traumatic events in childhood. Drug taking, by the way. A lot of young people will experiment and experience drug taking, and it's a given. It's never going to stop. Always don't do it. Say no to drugs. Blather is just that. You know, the reason people take drugs is because we are an entire chemical reactor going on. Everything we're doing is a chemical reaction. The reason drugs work is because we are a drug, okay? And nowhere in human history has anyone ever stopped people doing it, okay? Wise people, the shamans of the world, over many countless thousand cultures, have cultivated the use of the medicines, the ethnomedicines, to journey across the landscape, to travel into other realms, usually in the service of their community or the client they're working with, to bring back the resources for healing. But when young people take drugs, as the great Timothy Leary said when he coined the phrase, you know, tune in, drop out kind of thing, he actually said at the end of that, with ceremony. But the flower power hippie culture of the 60s forgot the with ceremony business. So they just started taking this stuff willy-nilly. And to this day, a lot of people take drugs as a party drug, as a, oh, this feels good, let's do it. But when you force the door open to other realms in that way, and many people do, they don't realize that when you force the door open like that, depending on what your psychotic threshold is, you can get lost out there and find it difficult to come back. And people with a predisposition to psychosis, that's where drugs can actually kick them in. But without ceremony, when you come back, other things come back with you as well and attach themselves to you. And the number of things that I have removed from people who've had bad experience with drugs or a bad trip or whatever, where they've picked something up while traveling out there and it's come back with them and is giving them a hell of a shocking time, okay? So whenever you're going to do anything that is mind expanding or mind enhancing, you must do it with ritual. You must do it with ceremony. I will only take out of this. I call upon everything that loves and supports me. I will only take out of this that which is 100% beneficial for me and for all and in line with my purpose. Anything other than that is not allowed. This is my will, so let it be done. So ceremony matters if you're going to do this stuff, all right? So people get parasites attached to them through trauma in childhood, through drug-taking experience, and particular drugs are particularly nasty at this, okay? Methamphetamine. There is something very dark that travels with that drug. Even when people get off the drug, that thing remains. And I've talked to many healers who work with people who work with these energies, and we all agree that there is something particularly nasty that travels with the drug methamphetamine. And it really is a vile thing and has to be removed. It's very hard for the person who's come back with it to try and remove it by themselves. But in the meantime, even that person can stop listening to it, okay? So we get all of these things in our system. We remove the negative. We stop listening to it. We stop having anything to do with it. We're starting to downlay a positive affirmation about who we really are, a reminder who we really are. And at the same time, we're expressing gratitude regularly, consistently, underwater every chance we get to powerfully turn our mind around from fear to love, okay? So it's really important to be hypervigilant and do this for 8 weeks. It will make a difference. And then towards the end of that 8-week program, if you've completely been hypervigilant about not listening to the fear and you're laying down the affirmations and the gratitude, if towards the end of that something comes along to tip you up, and there's always something in life that'll challenge us and tip us up, because that's how we grow. So we're always creating and co-creating challenges to grow us. Instead of hearing, oh my God, you're hopeless and useless and look at you and you should just kill yourself, you will hear, I'm worthy of being here. I'm worthy of being loved. Whatever I'm creating, I have everything I need within me to deal with it. So the affirmations start coming through rather than that slowly, steadily deleted negative nastiness, okay? So some of these things are really, really toxic. And what happens when you get in pain, or, you know, a relationship breaks up, you lose a job, or you crash your car, you know, one of the challenges we create to grow, that's when, as I said, like a dysfunctional family member, these voices really ramp up and put the boot in. It's like, oh, you're vulnerable now, I'm going to beat the hell out of you, and if I'm really lucky, I can get you to leave the planet. So the voices come from the story you were given about as a child, about who you are and who you are not, and every bit of that's a lie. You are not your story. Whatever your parents gave you, whatever your teachers gave you, whatever laws and nonsense your government and society give you, if you were born somewhere else doing something else, you'd be having a different story. It's that simple, which shows you how false they are. If you were born as Idi Amin in Uganda, or if you were born as Saddam Hussein in Iraq, or if you were born as George Bush, or God forbid, Donald Trump, then if you'd grown up in their world with their stories, you'd be just like them, buying that story, listening to that story. But none of us are that story, okay? So it just shows how ridiculous the stories are. But the voices are attached to the stories. The conscience, the superego, is basing all of its beating up of you, and it will never be satisfied, no matter how good you are, according to it. It's constantly doing that based on a lie. So the first thing to understand is that you are not your story. What you are and what you need to discover is who you are underneath the story. So start changing the story first. Realize it's a toxic game that is fed by your society, by the way, because people without hope are much easier to manage by those who consider themselves to be in power. That is not power, by the way, but story for another day. So you need to get past the script that you were given about what you are and what you're not. You need to recognize it's just that, it's a script, that if you were born somewhere else, someone else, you'd have a different script. So they're all meaningless. You've got to discover who is the blank slate, not that you're a blank slate, but who is it underneath that before you were carved upon. And one of the simplest ways of beginning this process is to stop listening to the dark, get it out of the way, just stop listening to it. You're habituating it over 8 weeks out of your conscious mind. And at the same time, you're laying down positive affirmations, prayers of gratitude, feeling gratitude, and over that 8 weeks, you will turn your story from fear to love and gratitude. And it changes everything. It really does. Now, for some people, some of those entities that have attached themselves to you are particularly nasty, particularly strong. Again, particularly some of the ones that come with drug taking that's been done without ceremony. So if you're having something like that, and if you find that you're really struggling to free yourself from that despite the 8 weeks of programming, you'll lessen it dramatically over those 8 weeks. But if you find it's still attempting to break through, then come and see me, seriously. In an hour, that thing is gone from your life forever, and I have never missed one, and they never return, okay? And it's like a 10-ton weight taken off your back when you remove them, okay? But in the meantime, this is just a bit of an overview to help you understand that monkey in your head, that mad monkey, get rid of it. And then your job is to domesticate the elephant, because the wild elephant will continue to trample everything in your life, including you, until you bring it back and domesticate it. And instead of saying, I'm hopeless, useless, and stupid, you're saying, which is the wild elephant trampling all over everything in terror and pain and fear, you are saying, I am worthy of being here. I am worthy of being loved. I create my own reality, absolutely, and I am the author of my own existence. And when you calm the elephant down, when you domesticate it and you got rid of that bloody monkey, then you can create, that's how you create space to begin to discover who you are under the story that you were given about yourself. So let me tell you very, very powerfully, my darlings, stop listening to that bloody monkey in your head. It's a liar. There's not a word of truth in anything that it says. You are a divine and precious jewel of the universe, unfolding perfectly in every perfect moment, even the parts of yourself you judge most harshly. They're not worthy of the judgment. The judgment comes from these fuckers in your head, okay? These mad monkeys. So stop it. Stop listening to it. Delete it. Anything that causes you to doubt yourself, my beautiful friends, is a lie. You are divine. You are a precious note in a symphony that wouldn't be the same without you. You matter so much more than the limitations of your third dimensional biology will currently let you remember. But it's changing, remember. So stop listening to that garbage. Start laying down a much more positive, beautiful message. Start feeling gratitude for the small things in life. And watch what happens, by the way. When you're expressing gratitude for all these gorgeous things, in about 6 to 7 weeks, notice what starts turning up, turning in. Suddenly good things start happening. Suddenly the things you're feeling grateful for, you're actually finding them. They're turning up in your life. So you must remove the monkey and you must domesticate the elephant. And if you can do this over 8 weeks, then your life will start to improve dramatically. Everything will calm down quite powerfully. And then you can begin the journey of discovery of who am I underneath all this bullshit that I've been fed, and underneath all the lies the monkey tells me. And I mean it. If you're having trouble removing that thing after quite some time, or small events that are going on in your life, trip it up and have it come in at you very strongly, please come and see me. They are, the author of that voice can be removed permanently from your system and they can't come back in. So that's all I'm going to say tonight, my beautiful tribe. Now, tomorrow night we have a meditation for the full moon in Aquarius. And so I will probably do a meditation during the afternoon sometime rather than the evening. But we still have some seats available at the meditation. This meditation, according to the alignments of the planets, and it's a full moon in Aquarius, I am being shown that we are going to get an incredible flushing of the mind, of the poison of the mind. So it's interesting we're talking about this tonight. But we are going to actually have our minds flushed. You know, the water pitcher of Aquarius, that pitcher is going to flood through us and flush out a lot of things that no longer belong. Now, we do live stream those meditations. And if you want to be a part of that, you can go to on a Facebook group. It's a closed group, but just ask to join. It's the Diamond Heart Academy Galactic Moon Meditation Streaming. And if you ask to join that, I will add you to the group, and for a very small fee, you can live stream it with us, although the meditation is usually left up for a week because those energies keep flowing. And it's just another way of flushing the poison out of your head. So take care of yourselves. It is a full moon tomorrow night, and we know how flaky they can make people. And there's a lot of interesting energies that began yesterday or the day before, with Uranus going retro and a few other weird things going on. So in the meantime, I will get to post the information. I'll post the affirmations that I give to my clients, and I'll post the gratitude prayer. Feel free to use them, add to them in any way that you use. But if you are diligent with this, if you are hyper vigilant with the dark, and you are positively looking at yourself 3 times a day, saying the affirmations, and every time you get in the shower, expressing that gratitude, then in 8 weeks from now, treasures, I guarantee you, you're going to be feeling entirely differently about yourself and the world that you are creating. All right, my loves, I will say good night, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. And be kind to yourselves, always, always. Stop listening to anything that causes you to doubt yourself. It is the lie. It always has been, and it always will be. Love you lots. See you soon.